Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. On today's episode, we have Matt. And let me tell you, this guy has been through a lot, and there's a lot to learn from him. There's a lot of changes that need to happen in the world, and he's here today to help, encourage us to change for the better. So, Matt, can you give the audience just a little background of where you came from and how you grew up?
I was born in Tingsboro, Massachusetts, and lived in Massachusetts until 1988. My father got a job at Franklin County Home Health and moved the family up to Vermont, and I've been here ever since.
Now, going through your childhood years, I don't know that you have autism. What was it like for you?
I was constantly bullied, beaten up, made fun of. And I always felt like I was an outcast. I didn't fit in.
What were a couple of things that you did to try to help that?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of swimming. My first time at the YMCA, I heard Stevie Wonder's I Just Called to Say I Love You. So I distinctively remember that experience and always have loved ocean and pool swimming. Two very different skill sets. It's very different to swim in a pool versus the ocean. And I'm very, very good at each.
Good. I myself, I never learned how to swim, which is, I have cerebral palsy, so my muscles are always tense, and it makes it hard to swim. I do want to give it another go and try again, but it's ironic because I basically grew up at the lake every weekend. We were always tubing behind the boat, skiing. I didn't ski, but I go tubing and just hang out in the water. So for me, if I have a life jacket on, I'm good to go. So let's go fast forward a ways. I know you have a book out. Do you want to talk about what your book is about?
It's called Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. And it's just similar to Anne Frank when she was writing about the Nazis invading her community and killing her parents. I wanted to cathartically share my story with the world because I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. The ends never justifies the means. Breaking the law will always come back to bite you.
Yep. And, I know for people with disabilities, I've heard stories and I've experienced a couple myself. When you do get stopped by the law, sometimes they don't understand your condition. Did that affect your scenario?
Many, many times I was mistreated by law enforcement. Both times I went to prison, both in 2004 and then in 2016, I was mistreated by law enforcement many, many times. And police are the biggest gang in America. They will protect one another. You have to be very, very careful with them. Don't trust them. But we do need them because of what's going on. The amount of violence today is unheard of and really unnecessary. It's okay to protest nonviolently, but it doesn't mean that you have to impede or hurt somebody else to get the message.
Yep, I agree. And I know a lot of stories where law enforcement officers didn't do the right thing, and it really is unfortunate and it shouldn't happen. I'm fortunate enough to have grown up in a small town. So with that, the law officers here, they all got to know me really quick, and they understood my condition. So when I do get pulled over, I usually don't have a problem. But there has been a couple of times where, well, there's been a couple of times where I get pulled over and they think that I'm drunk because of how I talk, and that's not the case, So yeah, it's tough. So, what is the message that you want to get across with your book?
When you or somebody you know begins small, breaking the law at small decisions, that's how my story starts. Making bad decisions, starting small, speeding tickets, and it only escalated. So those small bad decisions will eventually, and not always, but a lot of the time, will compound and get worse if the problem is not nipped in the bud right away.
Yep. Do you want to walk us through your story of what you went through?
My story is about, first going to prison in 2004 for working at a car dealership, not getting paid, taking matters into my own hands and trying to sell a car to try to get the commissions that I was due. That was not the right thing to do. And what happened was I ended up serving 18 months in state prison. There was a mental health court. Bob Wolford and Judge Jeffrey Crawford decided I didn't meet the requirements to get into the mental health court. And as a result, I had to go through the regular court and had a record. If I was able to go through the mental health court, I probably wouldn't have a record today. But because of these two individuals, I have a record today. And then when I got out, I couldn't find a job because the background checks have become so prolific, and they're even worse today. And I decided to use a couple of people's information to pass the background check and then work. The government, that was about 2008, 2009. The government pursued me for 7 years and finally got an indictment after going to 5 grand juries in the state of Vermont and spending $500,000. And as a result, I ended up serving another 18 months. And that's where I write the story of my survival story, cataloging the 10 different facilities I went to in the 18 months, and then the halfway house that was just as bad.
Wow. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Well, I was raped in prison and by 3 members of the Aryan Brotherhood. I was targeted and used the grievance process to let the staff know what was going on, also notified the mental health staff, and nothing was done. When I got out, I wrote to the Bureau of Prisons to find out where the investigation was, and they pretty much dismissed my case, told me they didn't have any record of it. I have all the records.
That's so messed up. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And, now you're on a mission to make sure it doesn't happen to other people. So,
To share my story, to let people know how bad the judicial system is. It's corrupt. It's not going to change. And folks with disabilities are at higher risk of this happening because when you're in general population, you're with people, you don't know what they're in for. They'll put murderers, sex offenders, white collar criminals all in the same unit. And there's a pod boss, and that guy is in charge of everything. And he runs it like the mob. And, you piss anybody off, you could get killed. And so I wanted to share the story that, when you're in these units, one minute everything's fine, and the next minute somebody changes the channel, something small, it could end up in a riot. So when you break the law, you're subjecting yourself to this kind of hostile environment. And then not to mention that all of your rights are gone. You have no rights. And it's as if you're, in a concentration camp. It's really bad.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I don't have a personal experience, but my uncle did serve in prison, and he told me a lot of stories of how things don't happen like they should, and it sucks. But you're also in prison, so like you're saying, do what you can to not break the law, so then you don't have to worry about.
Right. Here's the thing, Nick. You can always choose what law to break. You can't choose the consequences.
Nope, you can't. You can. That is for sure. So now, how can people find your book and reach out to you?
You can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. My book is available on Amazon. And then there's my website, bulliedbehindbars.com. I'm on Instagram at bulliedbehindbars, Facebook, matthew.melvin.5621, and on X at barsbullied. Reach out to me, email me, follow me. I need more followers on Instagram so I can go live. Without more followers, then I can't share my story live, because Instagram is restricting people from going live unless they have 1,000 followers.
Yep. And I'll be giving you some tips on how to grow that faster. And I will share your message on my platforms, and we'll get you there so you can start going live real soon.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Now, my slogan is "Your abilities are infinite." What does that mean to you?
Because of my disability, I have other assets. Well, maybe not assets, but abilities that other people don't see. I have the ability I have very good short-term and long-term memory. I'm also a very compassionate and empathetic person because of what I've been through. And I'm able to figure out very quickly when I'm around somebody if they're a good person. And if I feel that energy that isn't good, I stay away from that person, because it's like a blueberry. If you have one wilted blueberry, very soon the entire batch will be wilted. And that's the same way with us as humans. If anyone who surrounds themselves with negativity, they will become negative. So my encouragement to each person is to surround themselves with positive people.
Yep.
It's very easy, Nick, to complain. I could spend all day complaining, but that's not going to get my story out there. That's not going to encourage people to follow me. I want to lead people with encouragement.
Yep, exactly. And I have many mentors and coaches, and they all say the same thing. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. So make sure your circle is good.
Amen, brother.
So before we wrap this up, what is one message that you would like to leave the audience with?
If you or somebody you know is breaking the law, stop right now. Email me. I'll talk to you. I'll scare you straight, but stop it.
I think that's
The
a
ends
great
never
message.
justify the means.
No, just follow the law. It's so much easier to go through life when you just follow the law. I know so many people that just they either break the law on purpose, or they push the boundaries, and then they get the consequences, and their life is so much harder because of that. So yeah, I agree.
There's a quote in scripture that says, if you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that a lot. All right, Matt, this has been really great. Thank you. And, I can't wait to see where you go from here. I'll help you any way that I can.
Thank you very much.
Of course. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me here, the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.